Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Do you remember me? Because I don't even remember me. I haven't uploaded like a proper video in ages. I've done like vlogs, but I don't take myself as much of a vlogger. Like I like doing the occasional day, but I can't do it for a long period of time, and I tried but it just didn't really work. I prefer these kind of videos. So today we've got another episode of Mental Health Mondays, which I know you're all gagging for. That sounds so vulgar, but you are. I've had so many messages about them, and yeah, I really wanted to get back into them. I'm not gonna lie, for a period of time I found them difficult to film. I was getting a lot of negative, a lot of hate on some of my videos, and it was just it kind of took its toll on me just for a bit, and it wasn't really the reason I didn't upload. It was kind of why I didn't upload a mental health one, just because I was kind of sick of hearing myself talk. I'm definitely a person that I don't like making videos if I'm not feeling very good, because I think people who watch these videos, and like as far as I'm aware, what I can see from all of you guys is that you're extremely empathetic and compassionate, which is incredible. But that means if I put out a video where I'm not feeling great, or like my energy is low and I'm sad, you're gonna feel it, and I know you will, because I get that like when I watch other people's videos, and sometimes I'm like, oh, it's just one of them situations where it doesn't help me and it doesn't help you. So yeah, that is kind of my little update, but I should be back on the ball. But yeah, anyway, today's video is going to be on how I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, or emotionally unstable personality disorder, whichever one you want to call it. I've had professionals refer to it as either, so yeah, whichever one you prefer. I personally prefer BPD as opposed to emotionally unstable personality disorder, because they both sound awful and I hate both of their names. But emotionally unstable is just a bit too cutthroat. I've seen a lot of messages or comments asking how I was diagnosed, and I was diagnosed at a younger age. So yeah, I thought I would just talk you through what happened, because I think my without blowing my own trumpet, it's not really blowing my own trumpet, I got a fucking diagnosis, so. But I think the way that I was diagnosed is actually pretty different, and the way my symptoms were presented was definitely different. So without further ado, let's just crack on into it. I don't think I've ever said that. So I had never been to any kind of professional about mental health before the age of 17, and at 17 my mum took me to the GP. Yeah, so we went to my local GP. I wasn't diagnosed with anything, obviously, just after one thing. The one thing that will run throughout this video is that all professionals didn't want to label me. So every time I'd be given medication and I'd ask what's my diagnosis, and they would always say, we are treating you for depression and anxiety. And that used to really infuriate me, because they just didn't tell me what was wrong with me. And as a lost 17-year-old, I really wanted to know. Obviously, a lot of you have probably seen my story time video, so you'll be familiar with kind of like the outline of my story. If not, I will leave it below. But yeah, so I went into a psychiatric hospital at the age of 17. It was an adult hospital. Don't ask me why I was admitted to an adult hospital. Anyway, so in terms of my diagnosis, I was literally not diagnosed with, I don't think I was diagnosed for months and months and months and months in there, because basically they thought that since I was 17, this was my first admission. I'd only been to the GP like once, like a few months prior to this. They thought, oh, it must be maybe just a bit more of a stage. I don't think they took me very seriously because of that, and also they were used to dealing with adults and I was still a child. However, what I think is very poignant is the fact that when I was first admitted, my mum and dad were very heavily involved in my care because I was a child. So my mum went in a ward round because my consultant actually had asked for a meeting with just my mum to discuss my childhood which pissed me off, and I remember I just sat outside the door like on the floor like, what are they talking about? But my mum actually went in and she said that she'd been searching. She said this to a consultant. My mum is like ballsy as fuck. She said to someone who's trained in the medical field for like 13 to 15 years of their life just spent learning about this. My mum went in and said, I think Marie has borderline personality disorder. And the consultant literally turned around and said to her, no way, no way. She does not have that. Like, she does not exhibit them behaviours. She does not have that. So my mum had spoke to me about this before because she likes to just, you know, make diagnosis about me. She was actually right though, so and she'd shown me the symptoms and I was like, fucking hell, this is me. I think both parties were right in some respects. So my mum was right in the fact that she understood my symptoms and she saw me in a lot more of a raw, I can't speak, a lot more of a raw light, if that makes sense. Whereas in hospital, I was, how do I describe it? It took me a long time to break down a wall that I had built for years and years and years, and I would put on a mask. So that was in around the October time, and then by December I had still been there. I hadn't been allowed home at this point and I was sectioned. This is where the kind of older generation who had dealt with mental health for a long time started to kind of make me think about things that I had no idea about. So before this, I had never heard of borderline personality disorder. I remember being sat with one of my best friends there who was around 30, I think, and I don't know what the conversation was about, but it turned to borderline personality disorder and I had no idea what that was really. And like, I'd saw what they'd wrote on like the NHS or Mind symptoms, like what my mum had showed me, but I didn't know what it was still. And she just turned around to me and went, oh, all professionals hate borderlines. And I remember literally looking at her being like, what? Like, how can you, like, what? Because I was like, is there illness? Like, how can you hate someone because of an illness? And then I remember saying, like, don't you have that? And she was like, yeah, but they hate them. And I was like, what the fuck? It just didn't make any sense to me. So my level of knowledge about personality disorders was very tainted at the start, and I think that played into it quite a bit. So then anyway, December rolls around, like I said, and I had been referred to a personality disorder unit. So I had an assessment with the big guy there, so Dr. A, if you remember him. I remember being so anxious for this appointment, and I remember asking, what is the olive tree? What is it? And another HCA said to me, oh, it's for personality disorder. And I was like, well, I don't have that because they haven't diagnosed me with anything. So we were supposed to have this really long assessment, and I was still 17 at this point, and under the, oh my god, what is that book called? Let me search it. There's like a big book with mental health diagnosis. What is it? Mental health diagnosis book. DSM, that's it. The DSM is basically a big book of all the mental illnesses, symptoms, etc. As far as I'm aware, that's just kind of what I know. It's probably a lot bigger than the realm that I know. In the DSM it says, I'm pretty sure that you can't be diagnosed with a personality disorder before the age of 18. I saw Dr. A. We sat in a room and there was another doctor there, and I remember he asked me 1 or 2 questions. I remember being so anxious because they told me that this was a really big assessment, and when I asked like how long it would be, they would say like maybe an hour or so, and I was like, fuck, I have to prepare myself for an hour. I don't know what I'm gonna say. What if he's read my notes? What if he hasn't? What does he know about me, etc. I was stressing the fuck out basically. He asked me like 2 questions and then was like, okay, that's all I need to know. And I was so confused and I was like, what is going on? And I went out and I went to my bedroom and I cried because I was like, I've done something wrong. What have I done? The uncertainty just overwhelmed me and I was so stressed out. And I spoke to my favourite HCA who was there, and I said, oh, I've come out, and she was like, weren't you supposed to be in that assessment? And I was like, said it was about personality disorders, and she said, yes, I know, you don't want one of them. So again, so confused when people said this to me because I just didn't understand how there could be a stigma against an illness. Moving on, so that happened. Nothing really moved forward. Actually, this is interesting. So I think this was the day before I sectioned, or it might have been another time. Anyway, I ran away and the police were with my mum. My mum says that she remembers having a conversation with the police officer, and the police officer had said, yes, it can be very difficult to treat personality disorders. And my mum literally was like, sorry, what now? Because she was like, we haven't been told this. And as soon as she said it, the police kind of retreated and was like, oh, no, I didn't say that. I don't, Do you know what I mean? Because he was like, shit, I probably said something I shouldn't have. But yeah, that was weird. And then after that, nothing was really said. I left hospital. My mum, so this is what I actually found rather amusing now, and we do laugh about it now. So on my mum's birthday, she spent her whole birthday in the car park of my psychiatric hospital, where she had drove me and refused to move. She refused to move until we got to see a consultant, and she dropped that mum card like no one else, let me tell you. When the receptionist would be like, you need to move, ma'am, she'd be like, how would you feel if this was your daughter? If this was your child? How would you feel if the fruit of your womb wanted to die? And all the receptionists would be like, oh my god, let me get that appointment. But yeah, I was sat in the car like, fuck my life. Anyway, she got an appointment. Long story short, she got an appointment with a consultant, and I went to see him, and he told me at this point that I'd been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, and my diagnosis had been there since March the 7th, which is the day after my birthday. So that makes me question, like, what? Because I was diagnosed, but I literally for 3 months didn't know. The whole time I was in hospital, didn't know, but everyone else knew. When I was referred back to the first personality disorder unit that I'd been spoken to by Dr. A, like I'd mentioned. Basically, I remember seeing on a note, BPD, and then it was like, quiet, and I was like, what? It was brought to my attention that the reason it was so hard to be diagnosed with me was because I didn't exhibit myself in a way that a lot of people with BPD do. And this is where the stigma is so detrimental, because I always feel like if I hadn't have been in hospital, I would never have been diagnosed. I'm going to do a video about quiet BPD, and as opposed to like the standard BPD. Basically, we have exactly the same symptoms, however I project everything inwards, where people without quiet BPD and just standard BPD project them outwards, if that makes sense. That's kind of my diagnosis story. I was diagnosed at the age of 18, the day after my 18th birthday. Anyway, I'm gonna love you and leave you. Thank you. I just want to say a massive thank you so much for everyone who's been so supportive and patient with me not uploading, and just leaving me amazing comments still, and still messaging me. If you have messaged me on Instagram, don't worry, I am getting through them. They just take a bit of time because there are quite a lot. But I'm so grateful that you've taken up your time to like message me, like, but yeah, I will see you all later in the week with a new video.